Use by, sell by, and best before dates seem like simple labels to help you decide whether your food is safe. But the truth is far messier and much more misleading. These little dates stamped on milk cartons, meat packages, and snack wrappers aren't regulated by a unified federal standard in the United States. In fact, they're often completely arbitrary, chosen by manufacturers based more on marketing strategy than science. Grocery stores know this. They know those dates tap into your fears about food safety and spoilage, and they count on that fear to keep you tossing perfectly good food in the trash and buying more than you actually need. The idea of food going bad is a powerful trigger. No one wants to risk getting sick. So when we see that date on a package has come and gone, we throw it out without question, even if it looks, smells, and tastes fine. That reaction is exactly what the grocery industry wants. It's built into a system designed not to protect your health, but to keep products moving and shelves constantly restocked. The illusion of freshness is critical to this cycle, and if a date label can push you to discard a half-full carton of eggs or a tub of yogurt that's only slightly past its best buy date, then it's doing its job. Not for your benefit, but for theirs. What most people don't know is that these dates rarely reflect actual spoilage timelines. Sell-by is typically an inventory guide for store clerks, not a deadline for you. Best before indicates when the manufacturer thinks the food will be at peak flavor or texture, not when it becomes dangerous. And use by? That one sounds the scariest, but even that isn't usually grounded in safety science. For many foods, especially shelf-stable or refrigerated items like condiments, pasta, cereal, or dairy, there's a wide margin of time after the listed date when the product is still perfectly safe and enjoyable. This confusion creates a cascade of consequences. At the consumer level, it leads to enormous food waste. According to various estimates, Americans throw away over $160 billion worth of food each year, and misleading date labels are a huge part of the problem. People err on the side of caution, not because they've noticed spoilage, but because they're told a date on a package means the food is expired. That word alone carries a heavy psychological weight. It suggests danger. It triggers aversion. But the date itself is often meaningless in terms of health. For stores, this isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. When consumers waste more food, they buy more to replace it. When shoppers are unsure about the freshness of a product, even if it's just a few days past the label, they tend to avoid it. That creates an artificial urgency to rotate inventory and stock newer items. Grocers benefit from this churn. It keeps you dependent on the store. It creates the illusion that the food is always fresh because the old is constantly purged, even when it's still good. There's also a financial motive behind tightening sell-by windows. If a product has a short shelf life, it must be restocked more often. That increases sales frequency, benefiting both retailers and manufacturers. And the products with the longest shelf lives often cost less to make, but bring higher profit margins when packaged as fresh or premium. It's a strategic manipulation, creating scarcity and urgency by leveraging consumer ignorance about how food really ages. Milk is one of the best examples of this trick. Many people assume milk goes bad the moment the date hits. In reality, properly refrigerated milk can last a week or more past its sell-by or use-by date. But if you toss it on the morning of the printed date out of habit or fear, you'll need to buy another carton. Multiply that behavior by millions of consumers, and you begin to see how profitable this illusion of spoilage becomes. The meat department plays an even more intricate game. Most packaged meats are labeled with use-by or freeze-by dates that appear firm and final. But those dates don't reflect bacterial contamination or actual spoilage. They're based on conservative estimates for quality, not safety. Even more frustrating, grocers will often relabel meat with updated dates after repackaging it, extending its shelf life cosmetically without telling you. In some cases, grocery stores have been caught grinding older meat into fresh-looking ground beef or mixing different batches together. The label may be new, but the meat inside could be several days old. Prepackaged salads, deli meats, and prepared meals follow a similar pattern. Many of these products are packaged with modified atmospheres that slow spoilage, allowing them to last far beyond their listed use-by dates. Yet the label creates a ticking clock in your head, prompting you to throw out items preemptively, even when they're still safe to eat. The sensory cues you might normally rely on, smell, texture, appearance, are overridden by the power of a printed number. Even dry goods aren't immune. Cereal boxes, pasta, canned goods, and snacks often carry Best By or Enjoy By dates that serve more as marketing tools than warnings. A box of crackers doesn't spontaneously become toxic the day after the date. In many cases, it could remain unchanged for months or even years, but the date primes you to doubt its quality. You may not want to serve expired crackers at a party, or eat them yourself, even if they taste fine. Again, the result is the same. You toss it and buy more. And this isn't just an individual issue, it's systemic. Food banks and charitable organizations often refuse perfectly edible donations simply because the date has passed. Schools and hospitals discard usable supplies for the same reason. This compounds waste on an institutional level. Perfectly good food is sent to landfills while people go hungry. The disconnect between date labeling and actual food safety is more than an inconvenience, it's a crisis. So why hasn't this been fixed? Why hasn't the government stepped in with clearer rules? The answer is inertia and profit. There have been efforts to standardize date labels. Some groups have suggested simplifying them to just two phrases: best if used by, for quality, and use by, for safety. But these efforts face resistance from the food industry, which benefits from the current ambiguity. A confusing system serves their bottom line. Clearer labels would slow down the replacement cycle and empower consumers to trust their own judgment more. That's not in the grocery store's interest. Even when reform is proposed, it often moves at a snail's pace, and it rarely comes with widespread public education. Changing the label wording isn't enough if people still believe that any date means danger. What's needed is a cultural shift, one that encourages people to trust their senses and use logic, rather than blindly obeying a number on a package. Grocery chains have little incentive to champion this shift. Their profits depend on frequent turnover. They rarely advertise the fact that foods can last beyond the date. You won't see a sign next to the dairy section that says milk usually stays fresh for up to a week past this date. And when stores do offer discounts on close-dated items, they do it quietly, in the clearance bin. These items are treated like ticking time bombs, even when they're perfectly fine. There's also a stigma attached to buying food that's near or past its date. No one wants to feel like they're eating expired food, even when that label is meaningless. Grocers don't fight this stigma, they rely on it. It keeps shoppers focused on the new, the fresh, the just arrived. It turns every grocery trip into a race against invisible clocks. Some consumers have started to fight back. Apps and websites now exist that track how long foods typically last beyond their dates. Some communities host waste-free markets where items close to or past their Best By dates are sold at deep discounts. And savvy shoppers have learned to sniff, taste, and inspect their food rather than simply trusting a label. But these are still outliers. The vast majority of consumers remain trapped in the date label illusion. The psychological effect is subtle but powerful. Dates don't just influence your buying, they influence your beliefs. They create a perception of risk that's often not real, and they undermine your ability to make decisions based on observation and experience. That's no accident. It's a strategy that turns insecurity into sales. Imagine a different world. A world where food labels included ranges instead of fixed dates, where packages told you, still good for 5 to 7 days after opening, or safe to consume if it smells normal. A world where consumers were encouraged to learn basic spoilage signs and date labels were used to inform, not scare. In that world, waste would plummet. families would save money, and grocery stores would lose a powerful psychological lever. But that world threatens profits. And so, we remain in this one, where invisible timers count down from the moment you open the fridge, where the label, not your senses, makes the final call, and where the food industry quietly profits from your hesitation, your doubt, and your fear of a date.